So welcome everybody to the Career Opportunities for Military Spouses. This is part of our monthly leadership series webinar that BidExecs and Proposal Helper does. We look for topics that are relevant to broad audience that will benefit from the topics that we share. I am so honored today to have our Senator from Virginia, Senator Kaine, with us. We have the co-founder of the U.S. Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce, Jamie Chapman, with us. And we also have Ed James, who is our director with BidExecs, with us. As a small business, I have to say 80% of our staff, our employees, are either military veterans, spouses, or members of military families. And we're so proud of that. We focus our attention on hiring our veterans and military spouses, and they are the best people you can have in your company. So we are looking forward to creating more employment opportunities for them, and now entrepreneurial opportunities. So let me introduce our senator. Not that you need any introduction, but I will take a moment and just give our audience a background about you. Senator Tim Kaine was elected to the Senate in 2012, and he serves on the Armed Services, Budget, Foreign Relations, and Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions committees. As a senator from one of the states most closely connected to the military and a father of a Marine himself, Senator Kaine is focused on crafting smart defense strategies and reducing the risk of unnecessary wars. As a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator Kaine has long focused his efforts on supporting veterans, service members, and their families. He has been a leader on efforts to reduce unemployment for veterans and military spouses, and ensures those who serve our nation receive the healthcare and benefits they have earned. In 2018, Senator Kaine successfully passed nearly every provision of his Military Spouse Employment Act into law, expanding hiring and career opportunities for military spouses, improving access to continuing education programs, and increasing small business opportunities for military spouses. So Senator Kaine, thank you again for joining us today. I will introduce the other speakers after your part is done. So go ahead, please. And if you can talk a little bit more about your initiatives and what more you're doing for military spouses.
I will, Rena, and thank you so much. Well, I'm really glad to be on with this great group of military spouses and military family members and people who care about them. And Jamie and Colleen are both really accomplished in their focus on these efforts, and will have good things to tell you too. I wanted to just take a minute to tell you kind of a story about why I got really interested in this issue, and some of the things that we're now working on that you can help with. And then I also want to help you on your own initiatives. I came into the Senate in 2013, and I was at that point, I think, one of 3 senators with a child in the military, a Marine infantry commander. And as I started working on the Armed Services Committee, I heard over and over again from our military recruiters, you recruit the service member, but the re-enlist decision is up to the family. Because as people come in and get trained, and then they potentially rise up in the ranks, increasingly as they get older, they get married or have significant others, and then they have to make decisions about, do they stay in the military? And those become very important family decisions. One of the issues that I grappled with right out of the gate on the Armed Services Committee was the unacceptably high rate of unemployment for Iraq and Afghan war vets, especially enlisteds. When I came into the Senate in 2013, their unemployment rate was significantly higher than the national average. So we worked really hard for a number of years, bipartisan, with committee members, but also with all kinds of outside stakeholders and great groups like Blue Star Families, to bring down the veterans unemployment rate. And we succeeded. We got it less than the national average. But right about as we achieved that, someone mentioned to me, "Hey, Senator, but do you know how high the military spouse unemployment rate is?" And I have a child in the Marine Corps, and I have a daughter-in-law who's a military spouse. And the answer was, I didn't know the answer to that question. Why didn't I know the answer to that question? Sadly, it's because society hasn't really cared to know the answer. Department of Labor statistics every month show the unemployment rate among veterans because they ask about it. But traditionally, they don't ask whether somebody is unemployed as a military spouse or not. So we don't have really good data. What we do have is organizations that care about military spouses that do annual surveys. And those suggest that the unemployment rate among our military spouses is sometimes 2 or 3 times higher than the national average for reasons that all of you live and understand. Frequent moves, often at unusual times. Employers may be averse to hiring you because they know about a propensity to move at an unusual time. Military spouses that have careers that might require a license, cosmetologist, real estate agent, title examiner, elementary school teacher, lawyer, the licenses don't automatically transfer to places that you move, or maybe they transfer if you can pay a significant fee that you may or may not be able to afford. The burdens of getting childcare or getting kids settled in new schools, that takes so much time. So all of these things combine to take this group of patriotic people, military spouses, who are often fantastic multitaskers, jugglers of all kinds of difficult responsibilities, and who are sacrificing for their country, and put unique employment barriers in their way. So once I was challenged after we had succeeded to some degree on veterans unemployment, and I was challenged by some military spouses I know to focus energy on this effort, I've tackled it with gusto together with my staff and with bipartisan members of the Armed Services Committee. And as Rena indicated, we got a really good bill passed, the Military Spouse Employment Act. Most of the provisions of it passed in the National Defense Authorizing Act in 2018. But every year we're looking for new issues and new challenges. So here's the 2 that I'm working on right now, but I have staff members on this call, and I hope that they may get some additional ideas on things to work on. As you know, springtime is the time when the Armed Services Committee every year does the National Defense Authorizing Act. And so beginning really in March, we start to slowly put together the annual defense bill and introduce pieces of legislation or socialized provisions with our committee members so that when the bill actually gets marked up by committee in late May or early June, we have the chance to include provisions that deal with military spouse unemployment. There are 2 provisions that I'm promoting this year. One is to take a federal program called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, which provides employers an incentive to hire particular individuals, and make clear that that opportunity tax credit will give an employer an incentive to hire a military spouse. So that could be a very significant advantage for a military spouse if employers became aware that the long-time Work Opportunity Tax Credit program could be available for them when they hire military spouses. So that's number 1. And number 2, we continue to deal with a whole series of challenges around the high cost of childcare on or near military bases. And that also often imposes a significant obstacle to military spouses getting employment that they would find most desirable and most match for their skill set. So we have provisions to try to expand the use of flexible savings accounts that military family members can access, to make clear that those accounts can be used to obtain preferential treatment of savings that you then use for childcare. So these are 2 provisions: affordability to childcare and taking an existing tax credit program and enabling it to be used by employers that hire military spouses, that are 2 of the key initiatives that we're pushing dealing with military spouses in this year's bill. And what I would like to say to you, Rena, and all on the call, is the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce, other organizations like Blue Star Families, individual military spouses. If you have ideas for things we can do to be helpful, please reach out. I'm going to have staffers. I've got a great staffer on this call, Janet Lomax, who is a veteran and a military spouse. And I'll have her put up her contact information so that if you want to reach out to her with ideas and thoughts about ways we can be helpful, we would very much like to partner with you in doing that. I'm happy to say that while everything in Congress is not bipartisan, issues dealing with military families are bipartisan. I never have a hard time when I come up with an idea going to my Republican colleagues on the committee and getting them to say, that's a really good idea. I'd like to partner with you. And that's because all of us in our own states are really proud of our military families and want to do what we can to, we can't eliminate the sacrifices of military service on service members and their families. But if we can lighten the burden a little bit on military families, that's what we should be trying to do. And that's why I'm really happy to be with you today and share what we're up to, but also encourage you to reach out to us if we can do more.
Thank you, Senator, for that. And I don't think there will be shortage of ideas. I know that was just having spoken with Jamie before, and Colleen, welcome. She's sitting in for Stephanie Brown. Yeah, I don't think there will be shortage of ideas. So this is really amazing. Thank you. And the two the two things that you're working on, the two provisions, I think those are, really, again, close to the people that will benefit, right? Versus just grand schemes that we hear and talk about, but definitely it helps the employers and the employees also. So we hope that goes through and you have success in that.
All right, Rena, thank you. And you guys have a great rest of the afternoon, and I'll look forward to being together with you in person sometime in 2021.
That'd be great. Thank you for your time, Senator.
Okay, so long, guys.
Take care. All right, well, with that, I'm going to call on Colleen. If you can introduce yourself, talk a little bit about the Rosie Network and everything you're doing. And we still have Janet Lomax from the Senator's office taking copious notes. So I'll let you go first.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Colleen Salchow, and I am a chapter lead for the Rosie Network. The Rosie Network was started by Stephanie Brown. She's a military spouse, and she found herself in yet another duties station and wanted to learn more about other entrepreneurs in her new area that also had a military background. And so she started Rosie's List. It's a list of military veterans and spouses that have started businesses in their local areas. And this is a list that military families can use when they're new to an area, if they're looking for anybody from a carpenter to a car repair. If you're looking for someone with a military connection, go there. And as Stephanie was working with these military entrepreneurs and military spouses, she realized that there was a need for this community to learn more about starting their own businesses. So she started the Rosie Network. And the Rosie Network works with military veterans, active duty members, and military spouses free of charge, taking them through a course. Now, because of COVID, it's all virtual, but we have an 8-module course where we take entrepreneurs along the step-by-step process of building their own business. And you are welcome to go to the Rosie Network's Facebook page, our YouTube channel, to see our virtual graduations. At the end of the cohorts, the participants create a pitch deck and record it. And so you can go see other fantastic military spouses and veterans and active duty members launch their businesses. And I'm so excited to be here today. It's a great opportunity. Thank you so much for having me. And I can't wait to hear from everybody else.
Thank you, Colleen. Jamie, your turn to tell us all about the U.S. Military Chamber of Commerce and the great things you're doing. And this is where I think the Senator's office can really help us.
Thank you. I'll start by giving you the 30-second spiel on who I am. Jamie Chapman. I'm a 6-year Army veteran. I separated, then quickly married right back into the Army as an active duty military spouse. I have been a military spouse for the past 5 years And during that time, we've lived in 4 different homes, had 2 children. I founded a small business and I co-founded the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce. So needless to say, I have a way of keeping myself busy, and so does the Army. So that said, you're here today not to hear about me, but you're here today to hear about the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce, which was the brainchild of Stephanie Brown of the Rosie Network. We had been working together on a task force with the Army Chief of Staff's wife. Her name is Maria McConville. And Mrs. McConville called together a group of military spouses to tackle some nefarious issues in the military spouse entrepreneur community. One of those issues was overseas. The status of forces agreement prevents a lot of spouses from doing their work when they live in certain countries. They aren't allowed to work on post or work at all in certain countries. And so we wanted to unpack that and see if there was any recommendations that we could make on, helping those military spouses with their overseas business. And then the other thing we were working on is on military installations. I live on Fort Hood in Texas. It requires a separate registration process if you want to operate a business on a military installation. And that process, needs some improvements. There's no continuity between installations. There's no continuity from branch to branch. And so Miss McConville brought us all together to work on that. Through her uniting several of these military spouses, it got Stephanie Brown, myself, and Beth Conlin all together in the same room. And as we do, you put a bunch of us knuckleheads together in the same room and we come up with more ideas on ways to keep ourselves busy. So that's when Stephanie pitched the idea of the Military Spouse Chamber to Beth and myself. We said yes without thinking. And then a lot of work later, we are here, we have launched, and we are onboarding members daily as we speak. So that's how we started. We are a chamber of commerce. We are a little bit different than what you think of as a traditional chamber because military spouses are not all located in Colleen, Texas, where I am. They're located all over the globe. So we are a virtual chamber and we serve global members. In just 2 months, we have 360 new members, and our flagship service offering is the Military Spouse Owned Enterprise Certification. So if you think veteran-owned business, minority-owned business, woman-owned business, we have, for the first time in history, created a certifying process to vet military spouse-owned businesses. And we're going to bat advocating for these businesses, garnering national recognition in the corporate sector. And then next, we're going to go to the government for government contracting recognition as well for the Small Business Administration and hopefully the 8A program for socially disadvantaged individuals. So that's just the very beginning, the first 2 months of our business being open. And then I wanted to just kind of talk very briefly about the certification and what that means. Because if I said military spouse owned enterprise certification, you had no idea what I meant. I wanted to just clarify it is where you as a military spouse come to us and we vet and verify that you are indeed a military spouse, that you have a legally operated entity, and that you are majority owned and operated by a military spouse. And this gives a way for corporations to track their supplier diversity spend with military spouse owned businesses. Among other, we have tons of other resources, and we have certainly got a lot of things in the works in the future once the world opens back up for physical, conferences and networking events and things like that as well. So that's kind of the, 40,000 foot view of what the chamber is. And the reason this came about is because, the reason we're all sitting in a room, military spouse unemployment has sat around 24% and remained statistically unchanged since 2012, despite a massive outpouring of support from folks like Senator Tim Kaine and from corporate America putting in place hiring initiatives for traditional employment. But there is a gap in the entrepreneur space in support of business owners that are military spouses. And in 2019, Blue Star Families, their survey that they conduct annually revealed that 48% of military spouses are self-employed, own a business, or want to own a business. And so when we think about traditional employment on this side of the coin and entrepreneurship on that side of the coin, we've really been missing the boat on half of military spouses that are interested in entrepreneurship.
Well, this is amazing, Jamie. So yeah, you really did just say yes to something, right? And what an achievement in just 2 months. I think the first time I got introduced to you, you were just starting, and now you already have 300 members. So I'm curious to know, how involved is the military? Do you have any resources from the military that's supporting the chamber? How is that working? What's the military's involvement?
We're a chamber of commerce. I would say the DoD, the military, is not involved in what we do at the chamber, but we ourselves as the chamber, as a 501c6, we can legally advocate and do. So if there's a policy issue or something that affects the quality of life of a military spouse business owner, we consider ourselves the authority and the voice for those military spouse business owners. And we want to get involved and try to influence these policies that can help make it a little bit easier to own and operate a business as a military spouse.
That's great. And how receptive has the SBA been with the certification process?
We haven't really got started with them. So initiative number one for us is getting businesses certified. So far, just for a temperature in the room, we have certified 16 businesses, with 30 more in the queue for the month of March, and people keep signing up and keeping me busy like they do. And so what our first order of business is, we want to get a few more through the door and put together some early data points on who these businesses are. Are they the spouses of active duty military veterans? Are they service-based businesses or product-based businesses? What is their revenue? Have they moved because of the military? And so we're gathering data through the certification process to use as the foundation and the building blocks to start with working with the SBA. But we have reached out and made contact with those, with the SBA, and also with the corporate side of the house, the $1 Billion Roundtable. And we have advocates both on either side, the government and private sector, who are a fan of this and who are also going to kind of come forward and help validate and support the efforts behind what we are doing at the Military Spouse Chamber.
So Colleen, for you from the Rosie Network, you do a lot of entrepreneurial courses for the military spouses, and I understand that you're also now getting into co-working spaces on base. How is that going?
Well, I don't know as much information as I would like to share today about the co-working spaces. We have been able to, though, completely shift all of our classes. In March 4th of 2020, I graduated my first cohort in person at Camp Pendleton. And then, as we all know, mid-March happened. And what we've been able to do as an organization is just completely adapt, like the military families and community do. And so we were able to launch all of our cohorts virtually, which then allowed us to work with military spouses and veterans and active duty from across the world. I mean, in my second cohort, I had a wife come in from Japan. I had subject matter experts from across the country work with our participants, and it has just been phenomenal. But I will absolutely take your question about the co-working spaces to Stephanie, and I hope she can get you more information. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for that right now, though.
I can help, Colleen.
Oh, great.
So, the Soldier for Life is a program within the Army that has initiated this co-working space program. And so the Army is garnering support and interest from local installations across the nation to add on the installations near where these spouses live, co-working spaces on various, Army posts. And so the first one just launched at Fort Belvoir in Virginia, and it's beautiful from the photos that I've seen. And I believe they launched that particular location in conjunction with the USO. And there have been 5 or 6 more of the larger sized Army installations that are working on it, but there's a little bit of a complication with creating physical spaces during a pandemic. So in time, we hope to see at least the larger Army installations all have a military spouse co-working space that's actually functional with beautiful settings so that we can have these types of professional meetings and Wi-Fi and printers and coffee and all of those types of things that you would expect from one off post. And the idea is to provide it for free to the military spouses that are interested in a co-working space.
So there are a couple other questions in the Q&A box here. One very important question that says, are there costs or fees to be a member of the chamber? Are there any exclusions? And what if you're a retiree spouse? How does that work?
Excellent question. I can see the question. I don't know which person it was, but I will answer. So the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce, I'll talk about who is eligible to be a member. You can be the spouse of a veteran, current or former spouse of a veteran or active duty Guard Reserve service member. So that means if you were married to a service member during their time of service and have since separated or divorced, we still recognize that you sacrificed your career during that time and we want to help you now. Additionally, we are also open to caregivers of veterans and then the Gold Star families. So the military spouses that are also Gold Star spouses. That is who is eligible to be a member of the Military Spouse Chamber. And then, oh, I'm forgetting one, dual military. So if you were married while you served and your spouse also served, that technically means you were married to a service member, thus you were a military spouse. So I don't want to forget about those folks. So for 2021, membership is free and we would like to keep it forever free. We will always have a free membership tier, even if we end up charging for a higher level or something in the future. And we are working with corporate sponsors to provide scholarships for spouses. So right now, your membership is totally free, thanks to the generosity of corporate sponsors. And then for now as well, it might be worth adding the certification to garner interest in becoming certified as a military spouse-owned enterprise is also free. We know we'll have to charge for that in the future. It's a very labor-intensive review process, which we'll have to hire a paralegal or something like that to do in the future. But it's free for now and it expires after a 2-year period. So come in now. Now's the best time to register as a member. Now's the best time to register for your business certification. And, early on, your support by becoming a member and getting certified and providing that data that we need so much on behalf of the military spouse business owner is crucial. So I appreciate your question. That was an excellent question.
So there's a comment in here that says co-working spaces are nice, but childcare would be a game changer. Don't we all feel that way? But there just aren't enough, I don't think, whether it's a base or not a base. And the pandemic has put an even bigger dent in that, in the availability. But something, for, I guess, future efforts of the chamber is to focus on not just co-working spaces, but also childcare. Another question, I've noticed many of the perks for spouses, the grants, tuition support, etc., are at E5 pay grade. Does it matter what grade the spouse is?
For the Rosie Network, no, it doesn't matter. We accept any military spouses or veteran spouses. It's a completely free program for all of our military community to go through our service to CEO programs.
And same, the Military Spouse Chamber, we do not care what your service member's rank was. We also really don't care what their status was upon separating, if it was honorable or less than honorable. You were still a military spouse and you still made those sacrifices during your career while your service member was in the military. So we do not care about any of that stuff. We care most about you and your career rather than your service members.
That's good to know. So for the audience, those that are business owners, they've heard about the chamber, but if somebody wants to start their business, how do they reach out to the Rosie Network? How do they become part of the cohort? What's the process?
I would encourage them to go to therosienetwork.org and fill out an application to become a participant. We will be starting, what we've learned virtually is that there's no such thing as a school year anymore. So we are constantly looking at launching new cohorts virtually. So fill out an application and we'd be happy to contact you. And also, if you're a subject matter expert in any area from discovering mission statements to legal, HR, financial, marketing, I'm just racking my brain right now, customer discovery. If you're interested in working with our participants and sharing your expertise, we have an application for that as well at therosienetwork.org.
And you said there's no cost for that. So
right. We're a nonprofit, so there is no cost for our participants to go through this program. It's phenomenal, and I'm just learned so much from. Yeah.
No need for college debt. Just go to the Rosie Network.
Yes, that's great.
So from a chamber perspective, if there's anything we can do to help, and when I say we, I'm talking obviously the senator's office. Ms. Lomax is still on the line. If there's any message that you'd like to convey, Jamie or Colleen, what can we do to support your initiatives?
I guess, I'm a military spouse right now. My husband's a Marine, and I think, don't forget about the spouses. Just as you are going through and you are writing your legislation, I'm not just speaking as a member of the Rosie Network, but I'm also speaking from my own personal experience. We sacrifice so much. We follow our husbands and spouses around the world. We not only give up our careers, but we also leave behind our family and friends every 3 to 2 years. So this child care initiative would be huge for the military spouses. And because we don't have anybody, we don't have, grandma down the street, we don't have an aunt down the road. This child care initiative would be huge because, Jamie, maybe you know the statistics, but I've got to imagine that the statistics are high for how many military families have children under the age of 18. And we need to have some kind of support. Any support really would be appreciated for childcare or for helping us launch our careers that we can carry with us, because a happy spouse is going to help make a strong family and a strong house, and that will inevitably help support the military and the military members.
Colleen, ditto, amen to that, what she said. Additionally, a very specific ask is that traditional employment has a lot of support. There are huge corporations out there hiring military spouses by the tens of thousands. What has been really not thought of and not well advertised is self-employed individuals, the gig economy, business owners. We have a very unique set of challenges. Think of you have to be able to fit a business in your suitcase, pack it up and move it, reestablish your professional business network every time you relocate. And that's not only difficult for the traditional employee, it's also difficult for the entrepreneur. And remember, entrepreneurs, or those who want to be entrepreneurs, account for 48% of military spouses. So what I'll specifically ask for is, ditto to Colleen, don't forget about us. But more importantly, if you are an influencer or somebody at a corporation that makes hiring decisions, you can hire a spouse in more than one way. You can hire a military spouse for a traditional job, but you can also hire them for B2B enterprise, and you can support a small business. And military spouses turn around, and when their businesses are supported, they hire more military spouses. And so if you hire a B2B enterprise and you go into business with a military spouse-owned enterprise, they're going to turn around and hire and support their own tribe. They're going to support more military spouses. And so you get a twofer. You support the military spouse and they support spouses as well. So please just consider recognizing the military spouse-owned enterprise at your corporation. You can reach directly out to me. I'll drop my email and phone number in the chat here as well. But just consider, you don't just have to hire a spouse for a job. You can hire the business to come in for projects and things like that as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so and I think once you get more recognition from the government side, we know for sure in terms of subcontracting, the businesses will start giving military-owned businesses more opportunities to be subcontractors. Even if it's just meant to check off a box. Right now, they aren't even paying attention for that purpose. So it will make it. I think it's a game changer. And yeah, another comment here that says there's a definite need for spousal support. Come to Fort Bragg next. So you got a shout out from Fort Bragg. Somebody wants you there badly. So yeah, the Rosie Network. The next stop will be Fort Bragg. So
or join us virtually.
No, this is fantastic, and hopefully once the COVID situation lifts, we can all do networking in person, and then we'll come down to Fort Bragg. Ms. Lomax, did you have any comments that you'd like to share before we close our session?
I just want to extend thanks on behalf of the Senator and the work that he's doing for all of the advocacy that Rosie Network and the Chamber has extended to spouses think I had a lot of categories, or I hit a lot of the categories that you mentioned, because when I was on active duty, I was dual military. I'm also the spouse of a veteran at one point. We're both now veterans, and my husband is has his own business. So it is really great to learn all the different things that you guys have been sharing, and to see how the things that the center has been advocating on behalf of the military has been making a difference to our military spouses and the work that they are endeavoring to do and the support you guys have given to them. So thank you so very much for all that you guys have done and continue to do. And we are here to support, and I will take the information that you guys have shared here back to the senator, because it does make a difference from him when you are able to get information, especially from forums like this. And if you hold roundtables or different things like that, your ability to be in unique places that he can't be or we can't be on his behalf would give us the opportunity to know what those unique challenging situations are, because you are closer to the individuals who are experiencing these things. So don't forget about reaching out to us when opportunities present, where we can hear the things that are most unique and different to the military spouses who are not able to be in all the large areas that most cities have, but are in smaller rural communities where bases are also.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And for members in our audience, if you look at the chat box, there's contact information for the Senator's office with Ms. Lomax. Jamie Chapman has put up her contact information. Colleen has put up hers. So please reach out to these amazing individuals. Ask for help. If you don't ask, you don't get it, right? So they may not be the right stop, but at least they'll point you in the right direction. And we are here to support as well. If there's anything that we can do as employers, and we continue to do it, but please feel free to reach out to us. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. What an amazing set of individuals, and we're so glad to be working with you all. We'll continue to introduce companies to the chamber. So thank you for joining us today. And Ms. Lomax, thank you for all your amazing arrangements and prompt response. Thank you.